Hello, my name is Mike Franks. I'm the plant engineer for Action Coupling Equipment. First off, I'd like to thank you for buying your dream machine. I'm sure you'll find out that it's a very dependable machine that you'll come and trust for the next 20, 30 years. Today we're going to start by coupling a few hoses. I'm going to start at the very beginning and take you all the way through till the end. First thing we need to do is, after you've got your hose, we need to measure the OD of the hose. And if you'll check your packet that comes with the machine, you'll find a little Action tape measure. On the back of that tape measure, it's going to say diameter. You're going to take and wrap that around your hose, and that will give you the actual diameter of the hose. In this particular case, this is measuring approximately 1.6. So what I've actually done on this is pick a 1/11/16 coupling. Nominal sizes on the coupling range usually by 1/16 of an inch. You want to find the closest coupling that's slightly bigger. Not too much bigger, because what will happen is you'll actually bell the hose out and it'll slip off easier. So that being done, we've picked our coupling for the hose. Next thing we want to do is talk about the coupling a little bit. We have two pieces to any coupling. We have a male with the rocker lugs, and this is called a female, and the female is broken down into two parts, a swivel and a band. The swivel having the rocker lugs on it and the threads. This is attached to the band with either a piston ring, a ball bearing, or a roller bearing type connection. On the inside of either the male or the band, you'll find a corrugated bowl. And what this corrugated bowl does, it actually grips on the hose. That corrugated bowl is one diameter at the teeth. Then back here at the back, this is called the round out. This is a slightly smaller diameter. This is actually the diameter we're talking about when we talk about round out or bowl size. Back here at the roundout. Back in the back of the bowl, you'll find a tail gasket. This tail gasket is matched up to the hose usually. If the hose is really thin, it might require a really thin tail gasket, or if it's a thicker, say you're doing a hard suction hose, it'll be a lot thicker. And what you want to do is when you expand that copper ring, you want to smash down on the gasket first, and then smash down on the hose. And what that actually does, it assures that you got a proper seal, and two, that you're going to have hose retention. Okay. So that being done, we'll take and put this up here. What's actually going to happen is when we stick the hose into the corrugated bowl, the hose is going to slide right up until it hits the back of the tail gasket. And then what happens, and we'll go over this later whenever we actually couple this hose, the copper ring slides down through the waterway. And on some of these it's going to be rather hard because the hose wants to kink and wants to bow into the waterway. But if you can just use your fingers and sort of manipulate it. Sometimes you actually can put the copper ring inside the hose and then slide the whole thing over. And what we want is, we've got our hose butted up against the tail gasket, like I mentioned before. And then we want to slide that copper ring in. And that copper ring needs to be, when it pinches down, needs to pinch down on the hose and on the tail gasket. So I don't know if we can zoom in on this or not, but you can see it slightly in there that the copper ring is butted up against the shoulder on the coupling, so that when it's expanded outwards, it's going to catch the tail gasket and the hose, and that's important. The closer you can get that copper ring to the shoulder on the coupling, the better retention you'll have, the better sealing you'll have. If you have it too far back to the point where you're only on the tail gasket by a 1/16 or something like that, whenever you expand it outwards, you're not going to have a very good seal. Okay? The next thing we want to talk about, having talked about the hose and the couplings, we want to talk about the expansion units. The next thing we want to talk about, having talked about the hose and the couplings, we want to talk about the expansion units. Expansion units come in different sizes depending upon the nominal size of the waterway. So if you're doing a 1 inch, you'll have a 1 inch expansion unit, 1.5 inches, 2 inch, 2.5, and so forth. There are special cases in which you might have an 1.5 inch thread, but you're using an 1 3/4 ring. Okay, that's what we call a 3-part. Okay, a 3-part is an 1 3/4 hose, a 3-inch hose that's got a 2.5 fitting on it. There are some instances of 2 inches, or 2-inch hose assemblies that have an 1.5 inch thread on it. Those are a little bit difficult, and we might touch on those later. What I'm holding in front of me right now is the segment assembly for the 1.5 inch hose. And it is comprised of 4 different spots, and if you read in your manual, there's a picture in there, a drawing, that shows each one of these particular pieces in detail. What we have is 4 pieces, well, actually 5 pieces. We have the drawbar itself, also known as the mandrel. We have a drawbar adapter. Then we have a segment holder, the segments, and then an adjusting ring. Okay? And essentially what happens is, as the machine, the hydraulic cylinder, pulls the drawbar backwards, the segments expand outward, and that's what actually expands your copper ring into your bowl. The adjusting ring is used to set the depth so that when we slide the coupling up over, we can get right at that shoulder, right at the beginning of the tail gasket, right here. If we are not back far enough, what we'll actually do is expand on the waterway. And that can lead to all kinds of problems, such as a cracked coupling, a bad seal. Likewise, if we're too far this way with the adjusting ring, we might not get the actual copper ring expanded over the tail gasket. So it is very important, as we'll go over later, on adjusting the adjusting ring to the proper depth. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to couple this 1.5 inch hose. The machine you have here in front of you is a 930 machine. This means it has the oil cooler. It is a continuous use machine. On the outside, they all pretty much look the same. It's only when you look at the internals that you actually see the difference. To go over the machine real quick here, we have our gauge. All hose, as far as when you're coupling it, what you want to look at is you want to look at the actual hydraulic pressure, and that is going to tell you if you've got enough pressure on that machine and if your coupling is accurately coupled. The adjusting valve for that is right here. You have a left hand expand and retract and a right hand expand and retract. You have your on-off switch. And you have this light up here. Okay? And this light, what this tells you is that the hydraulic cylinder is at the end of its stroke. In other words, when that light comes on, the hydraulic cylinder is not going to move anymore. So any pressure spike you see at that point is not because you're actually expanding the copper ring, but the actual hydraulic cylinder is at the end of its stroke, and that's why the pressure is spiking. So it is very important to watch that red light. After a while, your machine, the switch might come out of adjustment. There is a little conduit plug over here that covers up a socket head cap screw, and you can adjust that swing arm that little micro switch is on to get your red light back to where it needs to be. So when that hydraulic cylinder is all the way back and stops, that red light should. Having gone over the expansion unit now we're going to touch on the basics of the machine. What we have here is a 2.5 adjusting ring. And this will come standard on your machine from the factory. The next thing we have is a piece with a wrench flat on the front of it. And that has a 7/8 female thread on it and a set screw. And this is called the cylinder adapter. And this actually screws directly into the cylinder rod. The next piece we have here, let me push this side, is called a split ring. And we're just going to loosen this up. And the split ring, as you see, has a full cut through it here, and then a partial cut every 120 degrees. And that essentially just tightens up on this next piece, which is called the nose piece. And let's screw it all the way out. This is the nose piece. All these parts, if you happen to rip the threads out, can be replaced. Anything further back than this, however, is a permanent piece of a machine. And what you see here, this is the actual rod on the hydraulic cylinder with the 1.5" thread on it on the 930 and an 1.25" thread on it for the 920. And this outer piece here, this male thread, is part of the gusseted adapter that goes on the front of the hydraulic cylinder. The split ring can be replaced too. That very rarely happens. So let's build this back up. We have the split ring, the nose piece. You'll have to forgive me here because this has quite a few threads on it. Right now we're going to leave this split ring loose because we might have to do some adjustment. And on any time that you take a couple of different hoses, there might be some fine tweaking that you need to do. And that all revolves around the fact that the hydraulic cylinder has 6 inches of stroke. And if you read in your manual, you'll see that covered extensively. And we try to set up everything around that 6 inches. Therefore, that nothing is actually bottoming out against each other. The only thing that you can expand on is the coupling itself. We're going to put the cylinder adapter back in. You'll notice on the back of the cylinder adapter, there is a set screw on here. And what this set screw is used for is for locking that into the rod on the hydraulic cylinder. We've pretty much got ours set right now. If that nose piece, if that cylinder adapter comes loose, you want to back out that set screw, screw your cylinder adapter in further, and then putting a Allen wrench down through the middle here, tighten that set screw back up against the rod, hydraulic cylinder. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually take and install our segment assembly into the machine. And what I always do is I pull the segments back like this, in other words, up the slope on the drawbar. Screw them on the, right now I'm screwing the drawbar adapter into the cylinder adapter. Okay, snug that up. And I'm actually going to tighten up my set screws on this right now. I don't want it to turn on there. Set this one. So right now, I've got my segment assembly pulled all the way out on the drawbar. In other words, it is as far out this way as it can go. We're going to double check and make sure that the hydraulic cylinder is that way as far as possible. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set up the nose piece and make sure we have that 6 inches. Once again, that 6 inches is the stroke of the hydraulic cylinder. As long as I set this up correctly, get that 6 inches set up right, this drawbar will never come in contact with this segment holder. If I don't have it set up correctly, let's say I have 5 3/4 here. What's actually going to happen is this drawbar is going to be continued, is going to be pulled back by the hydraulic cylinder that way and into the segment holder itself, and it will probably ruin the segment holder. It's not that big of an issue on the bigger units. On a 1-inch though, it will absolutely destroy the segment holder, and you'll be replacing segment holders all the time. It is absolutely critical on 1-inch to set up the 6 inches. So I'm going to take a measure and get 6 inches from the front face of the nose piece to the shoulder back here on the segment holder. That is the shoulder on the back side of the thread relief for the threads that screw into this nose piece. I don't know if Marvin, you can get a good shot of that, but right now we are extremely long at 6 3/8 of an inch. So if I would leave it the way it is right now, that means that once I screw this on and everything, this drawbar will not go as far back as what I want it to go. In other words, the segments will not go as far up the slope of the drawbar of the mandrel. Therefore, I will not get as much expansion as possible. And that's what we want. We want as much expansion as possible at all times. Not just because you have a large bowl size, but at all times. So what we're going to do, we're going to loosen up this split ring here again. We're going to take and screw our nose piece out, and that is one means of adjustment. Another means of adjustment is to actually take, and we have some threads in between our drawbar adapter and our drawbar. And that is another place of getting some more threads back. So right now we've loosened up our split ring. We've loosened up our set screw down here in between the drawbar adapter and drawbar. Now I'm going to screw that drawbar in. And this gets to be pretty messy. You always want to try to use a dry lubricant on the drawbar. And keep that pretty intense. So I'm going to pull the segments all the way back again. I'm going to take and look at my measurement again. And I actually went overboard. I'm at 5 7/8 now. So I'm going to take and screw that nose piece back down a little bit. And as you can see, there's a wide range of places to make adjustment. And it's absolutely critical to once you make that adjustment, to lock it down. That should pretty much do it right about there. We're right at 6 inches. Lock this adjusting ring back down. A lot of times it isn't important to lock that one down. All that set screw does is runs in and bottoms this out so it doesn't move as much. Still have this a little bit loose. And then we want to take and don't forget to adjust or actually tighten up the set screw on the drawer adapter. If your set screws get worn and don't want to tighten up, we do have those. You get those from us anytime. Double check everything here. We're still at 6 inches. So slide that back, start up the machine now, and I'm going to expand. In other words, expand, always think of it as the cylinder going that way. Pull that back just a little bit. I'm going to take and screw in the segment holder into the nose piece until it bottoms all the way out against that shoulder that we just measured. And in this particular case, I didn't pull back far enough, so we're going to hit it again here. So now that is set in. Next thing we want to do is we want to check our adjustment on our adjusting ring. And what you want to do is you want to take the tail gasket out of the coupling, and we're going to start with the male. So we'll put it on there, and we're going to take that adjusting ring all the way back to the shoulder on the segment board. Slide the male over top. We're going to expand it a little bit. In other words, we're going to pull that draw bar in, expanding those fingers outward a little bit. Not too much. We'll still be able to turn it. And we want to pull the male back. And what's happening is the shoulder in between the bowl and the waterway is actually hitting the shoulder that we've created with the segments. We're going to pull back, and then we're going to take that adjusting ring, we're going to turn it, screw it out that way until it's hitting the face of the male coupling. Right there it's hitting. Now we need to take and turn it back about a quarter of a turn and just create a little bit of slop in there, about a 1/16 of an inch. That gap that you see in front of the male face of the coupling and the face of off of the shoulder that the copper ring is. So that's on there pretty good. You want to hit the retract button. Make sure you hit the retract button or you'll destroy your coupling right now. Take that off. To remember to put the tail gasket back into the bowl of the coupling. It's happened a lot of times where people forgot to do that, so now we're going to take the tail gasket out of the female into the coupling. We'll slide it over, and actually it's again threads first. And we're just going to hit the expand button lightly. Make sure that we're about in the same spot. Don't quite like the way it feels, so I'm going to take the adjusting ring back a little bit more. And make sure that those two shoulders are hitting each other. Hit the retract button and go ahead and take this off. Now, if you look at the adjusting ring, like I've said before, you have a slight difference here. The female is going to come all the way up against this face. The male coupling is going to come up against this space. What that distance here is the difference in the lengths from the front faces of the coupling to the shoulder where the actual bowl starts. So we've got those set back up. Make sure we put the tail gasket back into the female coupling. So this is ready to go. Everything's locked down. Make sure everything's good and tight. And if you noticed, we didn't put the 2.5 adjusting ring on it. We don't need it for 1.5 inches. So sit this with our supplies. We're going to take the ring. Now if you notice on the rings, look the rings over carefully. One outside corner of the ring will be slightly deburred. In other words, we take and we spin that copper ring and take off any sharp edges. That is the corner that's going to be coming in contact with the inside waterway of the hose. We do not want it to cut or mar the inside of the hose whatsoever. That is going to go on the outside. I'm going to slide that over top. This is a straight 1.5 inch coupling, so we can do this. If it was a 3 by 2.5 or 1 3/4 by 1.5 inch, we could not do it. It would be a 3-part, and you'd have to put the copper ring in the hose and then slide everything into the coupling. We'll do one of those later. Slide the copper ring up against the over the segments, up against the segment holder. our hose. We're going to stick it into the coupling. We're going to butt the hose up against the tail gasket. And we're going to take the whole assembly. And I always try to hold it on the area where it was rolled flat. Slide it up over. Or slide it all the way against. If I go to take it off at this point, the copper ring will come back off. So we always want to make sure we have that forward action. Slide it over. Next we're going to set our pressure. And I always try to do this on the retract side. I don't want that drawbar going in right now and ruining it. So I'm going to hit retract, and the gauge is going to move. On top of the gauge, on top of the machine here, we see suggested pressure guideline for our couplings. On an 1.5" single jacket, we see that the range is 500 to 600 pounds. So we're going to set, using this valve, we're going to set that pressure to about 600 pounds. And I'm going to try to stay at 600 pounds. Seems to be a good area for this. With brass, you would naturally want to be very careful on an 1.5" brass, but this is aluminum, so we're going to slide everything up. We're going to hit the expand button, and we're going to watch. When our gauge comes to 600 pounds, we've expanded that copper ring out as far as 600 pounds will take us. Notice that the red light is not coming on, so we did not come to the end of the stroke. Take and release the expand button, hit the retract button, take it out a little bit. I'm going to turn it just a little bit. When those expansion segments come out, it makes a crease in the inside of the copper ring. So by taking and turning the bowl a little bit, we're going to smooth those out, have a better seal. So I've turned it about 15 degrees or so. I'm going to hit the expand button again and take it up to 600 pounds. Hit the retract button all the way, coupling off, and there you see that we've expanded the copper ring out, pinching the hose in between, pinching it shut, the hose shut on the corrugated bowl, and then also squeezing down on that tail gasket. You should see the tail gasket actually oozing out between the copper ring and the shoulder on the coupling. That's a good seal. If you get too much gasket, that means that you're actually applying all the pressure on the gasket, not getting as much on the hose, so you're going to have trouble with hose retention. We like to usually see the ID of the tail gasket about a 16th smaller than the ID of the hose. Just a lot of that depends upon the hose, and for first-time users, we suggest maybe give us a call and then we'll try to help you through that. So right now, the male's on there. We're going to turn this over. We're going to do the exact same thing. Slide, look for the deburred edge in the corner on the ring. That goes out. Slide it over our segments until it hits the segment holder. Put our hose in. Slide the whole thing. And I always try to keep it open. Slide the whole thing up. Sometimes you get stuck and you might have to take it back off. Make sure that copper ring stays up where it's supposed to go though. Slide the whole thing up. I don't have a problem here. Sometimes the hose likes to come out into the waterway and doesn't allow you to slide over top of the copper ring. And that happens when you sort of work out the bubbles on the inside and hold the hose rounder. There we go, we got it slid up. We're going to push everything up as far as it'll go that way. Hit the expand button. Take the 600 pounds, let off on it. Turn it a little bit, 15 degrees or so, and hit it again. And there we have our 1.5" female. We've got good squash on the gasket, that's what we're looking for, and everything looks fine there. So, there's an 1.5". Turn the machine off there, we're going to take a just a little bit, makes it easier to get everything off. everything off here. And we made that adjustment between our drawbar adapter and our drawbar. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we don't lose that adjustment for the next time. The next time then, the only thing we'll have to look at is adjusting the nose piece here. And in this particular case, we've taken out the whole assembly back to the cylinder adapter. Loosen that set screw. Take this cylinder adapter back off. That needs to pretty much stay with the machine for any sizes we're doing right now. We're going to do a 2.5, and then we're going to do a 3 by 2.5. The only time the cylinder adapter will come out of the machine is if you're using a 3.5, anywhere from 3.5 to 6. In that particular case, the drawbar has this threads on it here exactly. Next hose we're going to assemble is a 2.5 single jacket hose. We're going to take and size this. We're going to take our OD tape that comes with the machine here. We're going to flip it over to the diameter size, wrap it around the hose until we get the length. As you see, we're not quite to the 3. We're about 2.8 or about 2.812, which would be 2 13/16. It's the closest nominal size. So that's what I've got here, 2 13/16 bowl coupling. This is a 2.5 iron pipe. I'm going to take and set the segment assembly up on this. This particular one here is 2.5. Everybody asks me how I can tell the difference between a 2.5 and a 3 by 2.5. The biggest thing to look at is one, this wall thickness on a 2.5 compared to the wall thickness on a 3 by 2.5. The other thing to look at is this drawbar in a 2.5 does not have a flange on it, whereas a 3 by 2.5 has a flange. So we're going to set this up. It's important now to remember to put our 2.5 adjusting ring back on the machine. And when you do that, make sure you do it with this flange, this part of it sticking out towards you. Once again, that's the difference in distance from the front face to the shoulder between a male and a female. So we have our adjusting ring on. Cylinder adapter is good and tight. Adjusting ring, everything's good and tight. So we're going to take and screw our drawbar directly into the cylinder adapter now. We do not need a drawbar adapter for this particular size. We're going to screw it all the way in. We're going to slide our segment cord all the way out. We're going to take our measurement. Once again, that's from the front face of the nose piece to the back shoulder on the segment cord. In other words, when I take and screw these two pieces in, that is the surface in which the two pieces come together and meet. That we want to be about 6 inches. And Right now, I'm about 6 1/4 inches. So I have my drawbar screwed all the way into my cylinder adapter. I have my cylinder adapter screwed all the way into the rod of my hydraulic cylinder. The only place, therefore, I can make any adjustment is on my nose piece, and to bring my nose piece out to reduce that from 6 1/4 back to 6 inches. Okay, so we've loosened that up. Now we're going to bring our nose piece out, unscrewing it counterclockwise. I'm going to take my measurement again from the front face to the back face on the segment holder. Keep on screwing that out until I get my 6 inches. So we're right about 6 inches, right about there. Once again, I'm going to lock down my adjusting ring. So now that nose piece will not move. And we didn't. We need to tighten down the set screw between our cylinder adapter and our drawbar. So now the drawbar will not move. And every once in a while you'll have this happen where you actually take might pull out every once in a while too hard on the segments, and they'll slide up the ring and get caught. So just taking a little tap there and I'll get that off there. We're going to slide back our segment holder, and we're going to screw it into the nose piece. If at any time you cannot screw in your segment holder, make sure by all means that you hit the expand button, in other words, to pull that drawbar in there. If you don't have it quite right and you hit the retract button and you've only got the segment holder screwed in by maybe 1 or 2 threads, you're going to rip those 1 or 2 threads out, especially on the smaller sizes. We're going to take our adjusting ring, turn everything back that way as far as we can. Then we're going to take the male coupling and we're going to take the tail gasket out, which I've already done. We're going to slide it over top here. So we're going to take our adjusting ring, slide it up there a little bit. Every once in a while, if you tighten it back too much against the nose piece, it will sort of stick. We're going to hit the expand button. Actually, we're going to create that lip again, or that shoulder on the segments between the segment holder and the segment. I'm going to bring the male coupling out so those 2 shoulders hit each other. Screw my adjusting ring back. So now I'm in contact with the front face of the male. I'm going to take it and loosen it up a 1/4 of a turn or so. Just want to create like a 1/16 of an inch gap between the 2. Okay? I'm going to hit the retract button now. Now I can pull my male coupling off. The adjusting ring is set. We can double check it with the female. Do the same thing. Sometimes, especially on iron pipe, you might have to take the swivel gasket out. Expand button, create that shoulder. And you can see that we got a good setting there too on the female as well. Hit the retract. Take that off altogether. Do not forget to put your tail gaskets back in. Do not forget, once we're done with the female, to put your swivel gasket back in. Take the 2 1/2 ring, find a nice chamfered corner. On 2 1/2 we actually chamfer both sides, so pretty much set on that. I'm going to slide that up over top my segments. Once again, this is a straight 2 1/2, so don't don't have to worry about sticking it in the hose first. Tail gasket's in. Put my hose in the bowl. Coupling. Slide that hose all the way up until it touches the tail gasket. Like I said before, if you hold it on the grease, that'll keep the hose open. Slide the whole thing up. Pour it to the point where it's hitting that adjusting ring. Take a look here at our pressure on a 2.5 single jacket coupling. We want 850 to 900 pounds. I'll hit the retract button. Right now we're still set at 600 from the 1.5 inch. So, crank it up a little bit. There's 800. There's 850. 850 should be good pressure for this. Never hurts to try your lower pressures first. So, rings all the way up against there. Our hose coupling is all the way up against there. Hit the expand button. Watch the gauge climb. Our light did not come on, so we're not in any trouble as far as being at the end of the stroke of hydraulic cylinder. We're at 850. Leave go to the expand button, hit the retract button, turn it 15 degrees, hit the expand button again. So what I've done is I've created a nice smooth expansion. Looking at the coupling, what I'm feeling with my fingers is I'm getting a good bit of squish on the gasket, so much so that it's a little bit of it's coming out between the copper ring and the shoulder of the coupling. Checking, making sure that my copper ring is expanded uniformly and I don't have any sharp creases. So there's the male. Now we have the male down, we're going to do the female. Do the same thing. Slide our copper ring up over top of the segment fingers. We've already set up our adjusting ring. Make sure that we have the tail gasket in there. Slide our hose to the corrugated bowl of the coupling. Make sure that it is all the way up against the tail gasket. Once again, holding the hose open. Slide it up over the copper ring and up to the point where it bottoms out against the adjusting ring. Pressure is already set. I'm going to hit the expand. And we'll check it once. Hit it again. And check, make sure we got a little bit of squish coming out between the copper ring and the shoulder of the coupling. We do. We're not expanding the outside of the OD of the female. So there we have the 2.5 single jacket set. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to couple some 3x2.5. So we're going to take the 2.5 expansion unit off, and once again, if you hit the on button, hit expand just a little bit. It'll make it a little bit easier to get the drawbar to unscrew it, the second quarter unscrew. This time we're going to make sure that the cylinder adapter don't come out with it. Crack it out. Loosen our set screw between the drawbar adapter and the cylinder adapter. I'm sorry, between the drawbar and the cylinder adapter. Now we can unscrew the drawbar. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do some 3x2.5 couplings. And the reason this is called a 3x2.5, it is for a 3-inch hose. That's a 3-inch waterway, but it has a 2.5 thread on it. Therefore, when we go to do these, you cannot, like we've done in the past, get the copper ring down through the waterway on the swivel. So that makes things a little bit different. What we have here, these are actually couplings that we are recoupling. In other words, these have been used before. And what we've actually done is we've taken the old hose, cut it off flush with this backside of the corrugation, and we've taken a ring extractor. This is called a ring extractor. We always get comments on this at the shows. People think it's some kind of torture device, but what you actually take and do is you actually take this front prong here and you pound it down with a hammer. That's the reason this is all smashed flat between the actual aluminum of the coupling and the copper ring, and you drive it down in there. And what that does is that forces that copper ring up into this groove. And then what you take and do is you do a little twist like this, and you actually reduce the diameter of the copper ring. So you take the copper ring back out, take the old piece of hose back out, and then you're going to replace the tail gaskets with new tail gaskets. Very, very useful tool to have around. I would demonstrate it right now, but I would need a workbench or something to work on. We always try to take, and we have a 3-jaw chuck that we have laying on a table that makes it a lot easier to take and put the coupling in it, tighten up on the waterway, and then drive that down. So we're recoupling these. Got a 3-inch ring. Our hose that we're going to be doing today is a cloth hose with a rubber lining. And a lot of times if you have a length that very long, you can't do that, but we're going to make sure that the coupling fits real good. I've already sized these, but why don't we go over that once more. We're going to take our OD tape, came with your machine in your packet, run it around the hose, and we're going to pull it tight. We're going to line up on the 0. And here we have 3 inches, so we know we're bigger than 3 inches. And it's about 3.25. So right about 3 1/4. And that's the bowl size in these couplings. So, got this all set up. Let's double check and make sure it's going to fit in the hose okay. The bigger diameter you get, the harder it is to hold on to it. I always try to squeeze it to the point where you keep it open. And check and make sure that there's no puckers on the inside that's going to catch or anything. That looks pretty good. Got a tail gasket in there, so I think that looks all pretty good. Let's take the pointers up down here. We're going to get our 3x2.5 expansion unit out. This one's been well used. A lot of these tools, once you buy them, they'll last you quite a while, especially the bigger diameter. Smaller diameter, the 1 inch, might last a while. Might not last very long, sorry. So, got the drawbar screwed all the way in. I'm going to tighten down the set screw on my cylinder adapter. So now that drawbar is locked into place, I take my segment assembly, pull it all the way out. And we're going to check to make sure that we have the 6 inches. Also make sure you have that adjusting ring on there. And right now, we are at 6 3/16. Making sure everything is tightened up, making sure that the cylinder adapter hasn't slipped on us or anything. We'll loosen up the split ring. Loosen that up. We're going to run that nose piece out until we get that 6 inches. If it would have been 5 7/8, we would have had to screw the drawbar, the nose piece in. pull the segments out again. Check that distance. And we're pretty much right on 6 inches now. So we're going to put that split ring back up in that position. It's always easiest in this position. We're going to tighten this down just a little bit. Tighten this one up. So now our nose piece is still a little bit loose. Let's tighten this up a little bit more. So now our nose piece is good and tight. Got our 6 inches set up. I'm going to take and screw this adjusting ring back. And if you notice that whenever I slide the segments back, it hits the cylinder adapter before it gets to the point where you can screw it back into the nose piece. What we need to do is turn the machine on, hit the expand button, and very carefully screw in the segment cord. Once again, I would stress that you really don't, if you got 1 or 2 threads screwed in, don't hit the expand or retract button. You don't want to rip the threads out of the nose piece. So right now we're on there, screwed on tight. Tighten this up again. Adjusting ring screwed back. I'm going to hit the retract button to bring the 12 bar out this way. We're going to set up our adjusting ring, get the right depth. We're going to take our swivel gasket out. Didn't need to do that on this because it is a national standard or an NH thread. I'm going to take our tail gasket out, slide this over here, hit the expand button just to create that shoulder with the segments, pull the coupling back so those shoulders bottom out against each other, and screw our adjusting ring back up to the point where it touches, and back quarter turn. Feels pretty good right there. Retract that back out. Take our coupling off. So the machine is set right now. We take our hose. And this is a 3x2.5. This is the 3-part. So the ring this time has to go inside the hose. Try to keep it about like that. A little bit sticking out. Make sure that you keep the hose open. Make sure that you put your tail gasket back in the bowl. Leaving the swivel gasket out once again. I'm going to slide this down over. Push on that. I had to do this a couple times to get the feel of it. Every hose is a little bit different. Make sure you get that copper ring up in there. Once again, that copper ring has to go through the ID on the tail gasket. So feel around here. Yep, that copper ring is up against the inside shoulder of the coupling. So the gasket is completely covered. So if I go to expand that copper ring now, that copper ring is going to squish down on the tail gasket and on the hose. So there we have an unexpanded assembly. Very carefully now, keeping the hose open, we'll slide it up over top of here. So the adjusting, we face off against the adjusting ring. We've got to set the pressure up yet. Let me go with that. I'm going to hit the retract button. And if we look up here, we're going to go off of the 3-inch. This is a 3-inch expansion unit and a 3-inch ring essentially. Even though it's a 3x2.5, it is a 3-inch ring. For 3-inch aluminum, we want 1,100, 1,200 pounds. We're going to crank our gauge up to 1,100. Got everything slid up against there now, making sure the hose is all the way as pushed as far forward as you can, and the front of the coupling is up against the adjusting ring. Hit the expand button. Watch the pressure ramp up. There's 1,100. Notice that the light did not come on. Want to leave go of it. Hit the retract button to retract it back a little bit. Turn it 15 degrees or so. Hit the expand button again. There's 1,100. Don't have any swelling on the outside of the coupling here on the band, so I'm going to crank the pressure up a little bit to 1,200 while I'm hitting the expand button. And there, that looks, getting a little bit of expanding going on there on the outside. So we got a pretty good crimp on this. There's one place where you can play around. I might be able to go up to 13. 13's giving a little bit of swelling. Stay right about there. Retract button, take it off, double check everything. Copper ring's expanded out good. And even though on a 3x2.5 I can't see that I have gasket oozing out between the copper ring and the aluminum shoulder, I can feel it with my fingers. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll get a dental mirror and actually take them and look at that and make sure I get a good swoosh going out there. Check our copper ring, make sure we don't have any heavy creases. And everything looks real good. I'm going to take and put the swivel gasket back in. There is our finished hose. Has been repaired, new hose has been put on. So let's take and do these real quick. I'm just going to take and step through these other two. I'll mention some things as I go. Once again, swivel gasket out. It's always good to get that habit. Tail gasket out. Check our depth again. The same size coupling should be identical, and it is. So we're fine. Tail gasket back in, and you really don't need to do that every time, but I want to stress that it's the same every time in this particular case because it's the same size coupling, same size hose. Take and a lot of times what's nice, especially when you have a nice clean hose like this, is to have a table where you can actually set everything out. When I get our copper ring, I'll put it in the hose, just have it stick out a little bit. Got our tail gasket back in here, down over. Make sure that copper ring slides through the ID of the gasket. If it doesn't get it on the first time, I can take it back off. I might have to try to hold that a little bit better. 3x2.5s, 3-part couplings are a little bit harder to couple than a straight coupling. But you definitely want to make sure that ring is slid up into the ID of the tail gasket. That looks pretty good there. Just a little bit on this one side. Slide it over, let it all the way up against the adjusting ring, hit the expand. Once again, our pressure's already been set. We decided that 1300 will work on this pretty good. And, I've hit it twice, rotating it 15 degrees in between. Take it back out. the gasket oozing out. That's pretty good. Got one more of these. Do real quick for you. Take the ring, put a ring inside here. Coupling, make sure we have a tail gasket in there. Slide it up in. Making sure that the ring slides up into the ID of the tail gasket. We're up in there, so very carefully open the hose up. Slide it up, hit the expand button. There we are, 1,300 pounds. Retract, turn 15 degrees. Hit the expand button again, 1,300. Hit the retract, and we're done. Check our Squishner gasket. Sometimes you won't get that much gasket oozing out between the ring and the shoulder of the coupling. It's because you've gotten the ring so close that there's no spot for it to ooze out. That's not a bad thing. No, it's not a bad thing. That means you've gotten some good squish on the gasket. So we've done 1.5 inches, we've done 2.5, we've done 3 by 2.5. Those are by far the most standard of all the couplings that we sell and that are coupled. There are other ones, 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 by 1.5 inches, that work pretty much like these 3 by 2.5 did. You have to put the ring inside the hose first. There's also 1-inch couplings that are probably the hardest coupling to couple, just because of the fact that everything is so small, everything is so delicate, and there's not very much travel on the segments themselves. So that covers everything that you're going to get in your kit. If you ever have any questions, you can always feel free to call us. I'll try to talk you through anything on the phone that I can. The manual should have everything you need to know as far as preventative maintenance on your machine and what you need to do. Basically, the only thing you need to do is check your oil, and every once in a while replace the hydraulic filter that's on there. It's just a spin-on filter. It's very easy to change. Make sure that you keep your drawbar lubricated with a nice dry lubricant, and your machine will last you 20-30 years easily. So, thank you.